Hi everybody, thanks for checking in with GeerCrest today. Again, I'm Tyler, I'm the Education Director here at GeerCrest. So today we're going to talk about white alders, which are a common deciduous tree throughout the Willamette Valley here in Oregon. So alders are actually in the birch family, so even in the way that they look, in the way that they grow, their leaves, the way that they reproduce, in many ways they look and grow very similar to birch trees also found throughout the valley. So these trees are really fast growing. They can grow up to 3 foot in a year. So really fast growing, up to about 20 years. And we'll talk more about their lifespan here in just a bit. So in taking a look at the leaves, you can see this is an alder leaf that I have here in my hand. Now, this time of year, right now, we're in late April, the tree is still really forming and growing its leaves out, so it's a bit difficult to find this one. But you can see they have sort of an arrowhead pointed shape to them. They also have incised teeth around the outer edges. Again, looks a lot like a birch leaf. Similarly, when the tree blooms, it's going to form what are called catkins, and catkins are essentially small flowers of the tree. What you see here, these are the male catkins. They're fairly long, oblong. These flowers tend to form in late winter, early spring. So the one that I'm holding in my hand has already flowered, and at this point, the alders have already dropped their male catkins. In the fall, the tree will form and mature these female catkins. You can see they look a little bit like small pine cones. They're much smaller, they're not as oblong, they're more sort of oval or egg-shaped. And again, these tend to form in fall. So the ones that we have here are again from last fall's maturity. Right, so the alders themselves really like to grow in moist soils. So certainly, unlike the red alder, which is found more on the west coast, white alders like moist soil, but they're also more heat resistant and heat tolerant, which makes them more adapted to life here in the Willamette Valley. They also have really dense structured root systems. So right now we're standing here in the creek in our habitat restoration area, and as the creek is flowing, you'll notice that right here it actually goes underground. And what it's doing is it's going through the root systems of the alder tree. Again, those dense root systems are able to provide that labyrinth that the water is actually going to be flowing through. Now, this is really important for many reasons, one of which really has to do with water temperature. The more that water is underground, the cooler it remains. There's going to be less evaporation. But especially when it comes to that temperature, it's really important to fish species much further down into the waterway. Fish such as salmon are very sensitive to temperature. So we want to keep that water as cool and as exposed to the sunlight as least as possible. So again, these dense root systems are also going to include these little nodules. Now, these little nodules are really full of nitrogen. So there's a bacteria that forms these nodules in the root systems that is fed from nitrogen that the alder tree pulls from the atmosphere. The bacteria eats the nitrogen, and then in order to thank it for that fuel, again, nitrogen is a really good fertilizer for plants, the tree then feeds it sugar that it photosynthesizes in its leaves. So it's pulling that nitrogen, it's returning it to the soil. Alders are actually really good for helping to fertilize other plants. So if you have an area with really infertile soil, that's a good place to put an alder because it's going to, it doesn't mind the less fertile soil, and it's actually going to restore important nutrients to the ground itself. It's also really important in bank stabilization. Again, those really dense roots help to hold and stabilize banks. So if you have an erosion problem, an alder can really help to stabilize that. Again, we talked about the lifespan of these trees. Typically they go 3 feet per year up to about 20 years. At that point, the tree tends to grow out but you rarely see alders that are going to live well past 100 years. So again, they're fairly short-lived trees. They've got fast regenerating properties. But they're also really important to creating habitat. Again, these trees grow fast, they grow big, and then they die. So those dead trees, those standing dead trees, create snags, and those snags are really great habitat for cavity nesting birds. If you're interested in finding out more information, we do have another video just on cavity nesting birds. All right, so I think that's it for the white alder. Certainly we thank it for what it does here for us here at GeerCrest. We're very grateful for it. And yeah, all right, I think that's it for now. Again, if you have any questions, as always, leave us comments, reach out to us directly. And if there are any topics that you're interested in learning about here at GeerCrest, feel free to give us a shout as well. All right, thanks for checking in.